In the year 1962, a decision was made on the case Baker v. Carr. It was decided by the U.S. Supreme Court that the federal courts held the right to review redistricting issues, claiming that Tennessee's failure to redraw electoral boundaries violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. In Tennessee, the state required that the lines of districts were to be redrawn every 10 years in line with the census. This was because it was important to account for changes in the population distribution. The problem was that Tennessee did not review lines despite substantial changes in population distribution. Many urban areas were growing more rapidly than rural areas, and because the district lines had not been redrawn, rural voters had more voting power than the urban voters. To put this into perspective, let's say the first district has a population of 5. The second district has a population of 200. Despite the population difference, each district gets one representative with one vote. We can clearly see that in District 1, one person's vote accounts for so much more than that of an individual in District 2. Is that fair?
Charles Baker, the plaintiff, served as the mayor of Millington, Tennessee, which was near a booming city, Memphis. Baker argued that due to vast changes in population among the state, especially the migration of many people to city district lines, they failed to account for these population variations between districts through the state. A vote from an individual in an urban area carried less weight than that of one in a rural district, resulting in a debasement of votes. He believed that they were being denied equal protection of the laws and their vote was losing value. Joseph Cordell Carr was the former Secretary of State and Chief Election Officer of Tennessee. So he went to the federal courts with a lawsuit against Secretary of State Joe C. Carr, the Tennessee's chief election officer, where they argued that inequalities made by the unfair district lines were a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. What is the 14th Amendment? The 14th Amendment prohibits any state from making or enforcing a law that denies to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. This case was fueled by the claim that the state of Tennessee violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment after refusing to abide by the state constitution and choosing to redraw the lines every 10 years. This brought us to the question, does the federal court have jurisdiction to decide on cases regarding the apportionment of population into legislative districts? Was this issue justiciable or was it politically charged?
There were 3 main reasons for the holding by the majority in favor of Baker. The first was that the federal courts have full ability and authority to consider this case because it is one regarding the deprivation of constitutional rights by states, specifically that of the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. The second argument is that despite states holding the responsibility of electing their own officials and designing the structure of their own governments, they are still required to do so in a way that does not take away the constitutional rights of the citizens. Finally, the last argument was that the apportionment of Tennessee districts was harming voters in more populous cities and areas while unfairly favoring those of more rural districts, which led to under- and overrepresentation, which once again violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. So what was the final decision of the case? The court held that redistricting issues regarding reapportionment were justiciable, and the federal court did have authority to rule on these questions regarding reapportionment. All right, so what came out of this case? The biggest thing that did come out of this case was the doctrine, one person, one vote. This was expressing the principle that individuals should have equal representation in voting, 1 equals 1. Now, being that the court ruled in favor of Baker, many states had to redraw their district apportionment lines, sometimes more than once, and they had to do so in a way that ensured rural districts did not once again have more power than urban districts, but instead everyone was fairly represented. Therefore, this case changed the foundation of the nature of political representation across the nation. And now it is the end of our case, Baker v. Carr. We hope you learned a lot from our video, and we hope it was helpful. Thank you.